Today, Joe Biden wants to punish Georgia for their new voting law. Jill Biden, Hispanders, and it is really cringeworthy. I can't wait to get into that. And CNN says there is no consensus for assigning gender at birth. We've got a lot coming up today, and it starts right now. Welcome to the News and Why It Matters. I'm Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by Stu Burger, host of Stu Does America, and Pat Gray, host of Pat Gray Unleashed, because it is Pat and Stu Thursdays.
Yes, the best day of the week.
Thanks for being here. I'm sorry to pull you from whatever sportsing you were.
It's opening day for Major League Baseball.
The sportsing.
Yeah, sportsing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Might have heard of it. Baseball? It's American
baseball.
pastime.
I don't know those. I don't know those. No, speaking of baseball, President Biden and, of course, the left have decided that they want to punish Georgia and Governor Brian Kemp for their new voting law. I don't know if you've heard of this voting law. It's very, very discriminatory, very racist, very white supremacist, all of the phobias, all of the ists, because it makes it like actually more fair. And you can't give out gifts, which obviously means that you want to dehydrate people while they're standing in line.
Yes.
Have you heard of this?
It's the Parch the Democrats bill. Yes. It's so, I mean, I don't know how much you've talked about this over the past couple days.
It's bizarre.
It's incredible. I mean, like, this is overtly an expansion of voting rights.
They expanded what? They expanded early voting.
Early voting.
Yeah.
They expanded. They have Saturday voting, an extra Saturday, 2 potential extra Sundays. They added the whole ballot drop boxes were not in the law at all, so they added those, and they put those. They decided not to keep them outside for 24 hours a day, unattended. So apparently that's voter suppression. But it's really been amazing how this happens, and you know, you have this idea about like perception becoming a reality, and you know that happens all the time with like a product, right? Like people think this product's unhealthy, and so it becomes the reality, even if it's not an unhealthy product, right? Here's the situation in politics where now our facts are that way. There's a perception that this is a racist law that suppresses voter rights, when it's impossible to see that if you actually know what's going on. You can't. It's not like a questionable issue. There might be certain clauses and stuff people like and don't like, but we massively expanded voting rights, not voting rights, but voter access because of the pandemic. Every Democrat said the reason we were doing it was because of the pandemic, right? So in theory, it would go back when the pandemic's gone. It would go back to normal, right? Instead, they took, 2/3 of the expansions and kept them in Georgia, and they're being beat up like it's Jim Crow. One representative was talking about how there's never been more voter suppression in American history, considering we didn't let women or black people vote for like the whole time. Like, that's much more suppression.
It makes no sense if you actually look at what the voting law is, but I mean, they're not expecting anyone to actually do the digging into the details. So Joe Biden was speaking to, who was he talking to? Sage Steele. And he was asked about whether or not they should move the MLB All-Star Game out of Atlanta, where it is slated to be, because of Georgia's new voting law. And here's what Joe Biden had to say.
What do you think about the possibility that baseball decides to move their All-Star Game out of Atlanta because of this political issue?
I think today's professional athletes are acting incredibly responsibly. I would strongly support them doing that. People look to them. They're leaders. Look at what's happened with the NBA as well. Look at what's happened across the board. The very people who are victimized the most are the people who are the leaders in these various sports. And it's just not right.
So
this is Jim Crow on steroids, what they're doing in Georgia and 40 other states. What is it all about? Imagine passing a law saying you cannot provide water or food for someone standing in a line to vote.
But yeah, I can imagine
Can't do that?
So what?
Come on. Or you're going to close a polling place at 5 o'clock when working people just get off? This is all about keeping working folks and ordinary folks that I grew up with from being able to vote.
Jim Crow on steroids.
Wow.
There you have it.
I mean, the lies. He knows better than that. They know what this Georgia bill really is. And they know that there's no problem with handing out water from, for instance, the poll workers can hand out water. I don't know why you would. I've never seen it happen before. When does
what
that
if they
ever
want to?
happen?
But what if they decide that they want to
Then
sometime
they
in the
can.
future,
The
Pat?
poll workers can hand out water to minorities and white people
Well,
alike.
now you've gone too far.
I know.
They shouldn't be able to hand it out to
I
white
know,
people.
that's the thing. They should let the white people thirst to death. They should let them just die in line. Because if you go, say, an hour and a half without water, you dry up like a reed and fall over dead. What a dumb controversy this is.
It really is.
There's no longer a need to attach yourself to reality in these
Right?
conversations.
No.
Jim Crow 2.0.
On steroids.
On steroids. So you're saying it's worse than Jim Crow? There wasn't early voting at all when that was going on. Now there's early voting, and they expanded it. And you're saying, oh, it's only 5 o'clock. That's only on, again, we can go through all the details, but like that is, you can vote much later than that.
Yeah.
In fact, it's 5 o'clock in 1 week. 1 week of early voting, it's 5 o'clock. And then it expands to, I believe, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that's early voting. So it's already been widely expanded. He knows this. The water thing is a great example.
He knows it.
The poll workers can give it to you. A self-service table of water is actually specifically outlined in the bill. And even third-party people can give you water if you will walk 9 yards away from the line. If you're in line and you have to walk 25 feet over to where they're giving you water, or it has to be at a max 150 feet, which is, oh my gosh, that's so terrible. These are absolutely ridiculous claims. They're not true. Joe Biden 100% knows they are not true.
Are we sure, though?
I
Joe Biden
think
knows?
so. I think
He
so.
has to
Even
know.
Joe Biden knows.
I do think so. I think, because I would have been the type that said, first of all, he's completely senile and doesn't know what he's talking about, which I think is what you're implying, and I agree. But I think in addition to that, he'd be the type of guy that would at least try to be attached to the truth in some way. He might manipulate it, but he'd try to be attached. This isn't even attached to the truth. I mean, this is like, calling it Jim Crow and steroids is not offensive to me. I don't care.
Right.
It's offensive to people who went through Jim Crow.
Yeah.
You're acting as if their struggle was nothing. That their struggle was less than having early access to voting and having to get the water from the poll workers instead from a third
Well,
party.
that's because Jim Crow handed out water himself to everybody in line. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he did.
Wow. Well, I guess it is Jim Crow
A lot of
on
people
steroids
don't
then.
know that.
What did Jim
So-
Eagle do?
Oh,
though?
we
Do
don't
we
know.
know?
We don't know.
We don't know what Jim Eagle did? Huh. All right. Tell me what you feel about this story kind of tying into this voting law. So the Georgia House of Representatives voted yesterday to strip Delta Airlines of a tax break that was worth tens of millions of dollars in response to the CEO's condemnation of Georgia's recently passed voting reform law. So he called it unacceptable, quote, unacceptable. And Georgia was like, nah, we don't like that. We're going to vote to strip you guys of your tax breaks. I say good on Georgia.
Good.
I say good on
I should have
Georgia.
given the tax breaks in the first place.
Yeah.
Is probably the right answer here.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
government should not be doing such things. This is why you shouldn't. They probably shouldn't have existed in the first place, right? Because then whenever you don't like something, they fight back and forth. But it's the same thing you just mentioned with Major League Baseball, right? Like, it's silly for a business to be able to hold a state hostage. Like, that's insanity. And they shouldn't have the tax break in the first place. But I mean, when you come out and you say it's unacceptable, you should at least know what you're talking about. And like the person at Delta probably just doesn't want to deal with it, right? Doesn't want to deal with the controversy. But you got to deal with these controversies. You got to deal with them. You, at the very least, you could say, you know what? It's not our business to tell Georgia what law they have or don't have. I'm not going to tell you if I like it or I don't. I might hate it. I might love it. The bottom line is, it's not our position to deal with it. That's the correct position for a company to take.
Yeah, we
The
fly
fun
planes.
fact is, first they said they agreed with the law. And then they changed their minds when they got all kinds of flack about
Oh.
And it's perception is reality, right?
Right.
Like what happens, they probably looked at the law and said it looks good because
Yeah,
it's expanding
like,
voting
there's
rights.
nothing wrong
And then
with
they
this.
realized that the narrative is it's
Right.
bad. So now we have to act as if it's bad and react as if they're
That's exactly what
it's
happened.
Jim Crow. Terrible.
Well,
terrible.
it's not, Georgia is notorious for having the tax breaks for people in Hollywood as well. There's a lot of Hollywood, movies and such that have moved their locations over to Georgia because of this. Well, now Hollywood is vowing to boycott the state of Georgia because of these new election laws. Mark Hamill was one of the people who we have the tweet from him that it says, "Call to activism, no more films in Georgia." And he retweeted it and said, "Absolutely." And I guess there's a hashtag going around now that is hashtag no more filming in Georgia.
Well, Mark Hamill doesn't need to worry about filming anymore anyway. Nobody's filming him anymore.
Who's Mangold? Who is this? James Mangold. So he directed Logan. That's what he did.
Oh, good God.
Yeah. So he says, I will not direct a film in Georgia. I don't think Georgia is worried about you not directing a film in Georgia. James Mangold.
Did Hamill correct what was the correction? Can we go back to that?
What was his? Yeah, let's go back to that.
It looked
Hamill
like he
tweet.
spelled it right. I can't quite see it.
No more filming in Georgia.
Oh.
There's no R.
Oh, I see what he...
No more filming in Georgia.
And then he corrected himself by spelling it right. Well, good job.
Because that's who you want, are the actors who can't spell.
Yeah. It's funny because the people who get hurt by this, of course, are not the actors or the directors. They go wherever they want to go. It's the people who work on the films locally in Georgia. Those people, largely are going to be Democrats, are pissed off at this because they get screwed out of work. I have a relative who works in the film industry, and she works in Oklahoma. She's not really a conservative, though. So the movies that come in, right? Like a lot of people, they do some conservative movies there. She'll work on the conservative movies because she wants to work in film and is not going to judge the product like that. Here, these poor people who are liberals are getting punished out of their jobs because dumb liberals are screwing them over because laws that they didn't approve, the workers didn't approve of, are being passed. Yeah. Now, of course, they probably benefit from the laws because now they'll have extra time to vote, which is a totally remarkable part of this.
So that's what gets me is, so you guys are saying you think Joe Biden obviously knows, he's been around long enough that even a senile person would understand that this isn't what these laws do. So what is the end game then? Why is the left pushing this? Is it just because they want to just push the opposite narrative from the Republicans? They just want to just say, no, they want to discriminate against you. They want to suppress your vote. They want to do these things, and they just use every opportunity?
Yeah, I think that's the new narrative, is that Republicans are trying to squash the votes of minorities. And they can't have any real world examples of that. And so they have to make it up for Georgia.
Yeah, and I think they have to keep this alive, this narrative alive of Republicans are trying to, thwart Democratic votes and minority votes in particular. Think about the context of this for a second. Say what you want. Let's separate ourselves from how we might feel about this incident for a minute, because I know there's various views. But the election just went down. Georgia was the one that was the most controversial state, right? Brad Raffensperger was being beat up by the conservatives, right? Because he was the worst guy in the world and wouldn't recount these votes. The left heaped praise on Georgia because they stood up to the president of the United States, who was calling them and begging them to find votes. And he said, no, we're not going to do it. And now these same people are guilty of suppressing votes in Georgia and minority votes. It's bonkers. It makes no sense. They act as if we're not supposed to remember what happened last week.
Well, the sad part is I don't think the average person does remember what happened last week, and that's how they get away with it. So
it works.
Yeah, it does. All right, we've got more to come, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Mobile. In case you have not heard, Patriot Mobile just expanded their coverage. So if you have not yet dumped your big name carrier, who, by the way, they're charging you a bunch of money and then they're donating part of that money that you work really hard to earn. They're donating that money to left-leaning causes that you are working against. So Patriot Mobile never sends a penny to the left. They are not going to silence you. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. It's easier than ever to switch, and you can switch with confidence. It's 2021. They use the same network that larger providers use, but it is much less for your pocketbook. All right, switching is easy. You can keep your phone number. You can get a new one if you want, or you can bring your own phone over or buy a new one. You can get multi-line discounts and save even more. Just go to patriotmobile.com/news. It is patriotmobile.com/news. Veterans and first responders. If you are a veteran or first responder, you are going to save even more off of their extremely affordable prices. Right now, you're going to get free Premier activation. They're going to set that phone up for you, and a special gift if you use offer code NEWS. That is patriotmobile.com/news, patriotmobile.com/news. Dr. Jill Biden, can't forget that, spoke to farm workers in California with Gavin Newsom, which you always know is going to be a party when you are tagged with Gavin Newsom, who I hope is going to be recalled. Have you guys heard any updates on that? I know they got the signatures they needed.
They got the signatures, so yeah.
Are they going through them right now?
Yeah, they have to. It goes through a process with the state, so
Okay.
they have to confirm them. But they had them all almost all of them pre-confirmed.
I can't wait.
Past the 1.5 million. They had about 700,000 extras, so
Yeah.
they should be fine.
Okay. I can't wait to see that. But she was out with Gavin Newsom talking to farm workers. She had the United Farm Workers flag behind her, which let's get into after we watch this clip. But Jill Biden hispandering to all of these farm workers, totally butchered a Spanish phrase that she really, really should know. Watch.
So say it with me. Si se puede. The future is ours. Thank you.
Si se puede. That's not even like some people are
it's
like.
not even close.
Yeah, she accidentally said padre. No, she didn't even say that. She said
No.
puadwe, which obviously, if you paid attention during the Obama administration, she was trying to say si se puede, which means yes, we can, which was a big tagline for the Obama administration, who her husband happened to be a part of. Kind of a major part of the
really?
Obama administration. Yeah,
He doesn't remember that, I know, but she might.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. She should anyway, and also she is a doctor, so she should know these things. But totally butchering the Spanish language and the flag behind her. I would just like to say, since the media made sure to point out during the reign of Donald Trump that is actually a Nazi symbol. The eagle with the, that's very Nazi-like. It has
does have
very
that vibe.
similarities to the Nazi symbol. So I don't know what they're doing over there in the White House, but apparently the Nazis are back in style.
There's a lot of things to like about that clip.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Can I give you my favorite, though?
Please.
My favorite is how she's screaming and
knew it.
acting as if she's talking to
I knew you
500,000
were gonna
people.
go here.
And then the
There's
zoom
like
back out, and there's like 8 people in folding chairs. It's like this is like a scene from The Office. Like Michael Scott would be there, like, say Broadway, and then you zoom back out, and there's no one there. It's legitimately a scene from The Office.
It really is. I knew you were going to go there too, because that was
You know what I like. You know what I
it's
like.
one of the first things that I was just like, why are you yelling? There's like 3 people there.
Yeah.
Stop yelling at them.
It's like the cameraman is in on it because they're just like, oh man, I'm going to wait till she really screams. I got to show who she's talking to, which is no one.
And not only does she butcher the pronunciation, she seems to butcher what it means. Because afterwards she says, the future is ours! Like, that's what she just said in Spanish.
Yeah.
I think that's what she thinks it means.
She might. But so now we
honey,
have.
it's yes, we can.
Now we have Joe Biden saying, Joe, by the way, I know their names are very similar. Joe Biden saying, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. We have Joe Biden going out playing Despacito on his cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
Right? To a bunch of people in the audience who he thought maybe it would resonate with because, they're those Hispanic people. I hear they really like that song Despacito. And now you have Jill Biden butchering Spanish trying to talk to these people. It's embarrassing.
And of course, the easiest way to differentiate their names is call her by her name, Dr.
I'm
Jill
sorry.
Biden.
I'm sorry. That's a great point. All right. So let's see. Secretly recorded video reportedly shows migrant children being held under a bridge at makeshift CBP processing centers. So this was Project Veritas, who has done some undercover work over at the border. They've run out of room, so much so, apparently, that they are using an area under a bridge. So let's watch the video obtained by Project Veritas.
Those are aliens inside of the fenced area.
One of our insiders just gained access to this incredibly restricted makeshift processing center in Granjejo, Texas. It's located under the Anzaldúa International Bridge. What you're looking at is never-before-seen footage showing migrants of all ages lying in the dirt, operating.
some reason. I don't know why.
And yet, so this is going on, and yet AOC takes to her Instagram Live to talk about how the word surge is racist.
She's a dolt, straight out dolt. That's an amazing. I mean, I like the music always adds drama to the Project Veritas videos. they're very big on the dramatic music.
I think that it's the same music that the show Cheaters uses.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Like
oh my God, I love that show. It's fun. I mean, they've done a great job though getting this footage when no one else can. No media organization seems to be able to or be interested at all in finding it. And Project Veritas has done a good job getting a hold of this. It is. I did have a little bit of a flashback here, though, and you guys will remember this from back in the day. Remember when Glenn went to the border and like we were sad about the kids being held, and everyone said like Glenn's the worst person in the world for caring?
Yes.
Why all of a sudden do conservatives care about this? There was a big. I mean, a lot of the same people who were complaining about this were against Glenn back at that time and said, hey, Glenn and Ted Cruz were weak on the border because they actually cared about the migrants being held in terrible circumstances. I don't know why that's flipped. It's been an interesting thing to watch. None of them seem to remember their previous position.
Well, I do wonder if it's just that they couldn't take being called, xenophobic and all of these things by the same people who are now implementing the same policies.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just like to point out the double standard of the left who wanted to say Donald Trump was literally Hitler when he, was trying to vet these people, separating kids as you would want him to do to make sure that these kids are with adults who actually belong to them.
Yeah,
right?
and like that's a valid point, but it's one that we made at the time often. That it was hypocritical what they were doing, and so that's an interesting part of it. But I do think that like this is so out of control now, and there was another video, you may have played it yesterday, where they were hanging the kids over the fence.
Yes. We have that.
Oh, we do have that. Okay.
Yeah. So actually, let's play that, and you can keep talking.
Sure. They're hanging the kid over the fence. You kind of see maybe a coyote hanging it's a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old over the fence, leaning down as far as they possibly can over a 14-foot wall. Gets it maybe 6 or 7 feet off the ground, and then just drops the kid.
Oh, jeez.
And it's pretty ugly. And it does it twice. 5 years old and 3 years old. And in the video, you see, I don't know how much of it we have here, but they leave them there with no help and just a little bag of supplies, hoping that the U.S. Border Patrol will come and rescue these two kids.
But knowing that if they don't,
they die.
They're dead.
They die. They just leave them alone, and they people run away. What's amazing? The most amazing thing is not at all that coyotes or people who are illegal immigrants and helping illegal immigrants come in would not care about a 3- and 5-year-old. That doesn't surprise me at all. What surprises me is the lesson the media apparently wants us to take from this incident is there shouldn't be a wall so they wouldn't fall. And it's like, well, wait, if we didn't have a president that was outwardly saying any child on this side of the wall will not be sent back under any circumstances, maybe people wouldn't be sending their 3- and 5-year-olds to be sat out in the middle of a desert by themselves.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like, well, they had to they had to fall 3 or 5 to 6 feet. It's like, that's bad part of this. Not the worst part.
Right.
Not the worst part. The worst part is a president who is incentivizing this behavior and promising anyone who can do what you just saw will succeed in getting their kids into this country. Yeah. That is the sin here. The drop is bad, but this is much worse.
And again, where are the parents?
The mom's in the United States. In the United States. They're like, oh, we found the mom. Well, wait, what?
You found the mom in the U.S.?
In the U.S.
already?
And they contacted her, and they're sending the kids over. It's like, well, wait a minute. Is she a citizen? We don't know all the details of the story yet.
Of course not.
But if she's not a citizen, then you can deport them all together. Because that's what should happen. I'm sorry, when you're doing things like this.
Yeah.
It wasn't like some random coyote just picked up 2 kids and dumped them over the fence. Somebody's paying them to do that.
And is that what it paid you $7,000 to do?
Right.
A piece, by the way. I just paid you $14,000 to drop my kids and break their legs.
Yeah.
Wow. That's not a good deal.
Well, and by the way, when they call the families, and the families are like, no, actually, we don't want them back. Like, well, tough. We're sending them back. I suggest that you come get them. Have you guys seen the videos? I was just taping with James Klug over with Elijah Schaefer, who hosts Slightly Offensive on the network. And he's been on the ground at McAllen and a couple other places watching all of this unfold. He has seen a lot of people, some of his videos have been floating around on the internet, a lot of illegal immigrants who are at the airports with the manila envelopes. They're big folders, and they say on there, I don't speak English, could you please help me? And so they're handing these folders to people in the airport. And allegedly, they're all getting $2,500 with the folder, with a plane ticket, and they're dispersing them throughout the country. Have you guys seen this?
No.
It's incredible. No one can find out where the money's coming from, how they're getting this money, who's funding their plane tickets, and they're just being dispersed into the country.
It's just shady. I got to see that. I mean, it's really incredible, like what they're doing on the border. And you know, we can sit here and talk about all these policies, but like if we have laws to stop this, right? They just don't enforce them.
Right.
You know, so like changing policies is not going to do much of anything.
Yeah.
And if they're going to let stuff like this happen, how are we going to stop this?
I will say a remain in Mexico policy, if we could go back to that, that was
a nice change.
Maybe help a little bit.
Maybe help a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You mean is that the one where they were having people starve on the other side of the Rio Grande?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I thought you might like that as a white person.
All right, we've got more to come, but we have to take a break. Back in a minute.
What do they say to you? White passing?
White passing.
White
yes.
passing.
Yeah.
White passing.
She can pass for white.
I'm white.
POC.
Yeah, you might be Hispanic. CNN reported earlier this week that the meaning of biological sex is disputed, and that, quote, no consensus, end quote, exists for knowing a person's sex at birth. I cannot say this with a straight face. So they were talking about the controversy with Kristi Noem saying she was going to sign this legislation on International Women's Day, banning transgenders from women's sports, and then came back and walked it back. And in their report, here it is. Let's look at it. Let's pull it up. It's not possible to know a person's gender identity at birth, and there is no consensus criteria for assigning sex at birth. My head's gonna explode. If only there were something that we could see on the baby when the baby comes out that would provide us with the information.
It would be nice, but
so that we could know that.
No such thing exists.
Like
you
a
just have to wait for the baby.
Or like a colored light, maybe?
Yeah,
like
maybe
blue for boy,
yeah,
pink for girl.
If only.
If there was
or
something
maybe
like that.
some writing on the body somewhere. This is a boy.
Yes, that would be nice.
Or something even
Maybe.
easier, maybe.
Yeah,
you don't even
really?
have to write or give a color. They're just born with it, maybe.
Exists.
You don't think?
There's certainly no consensus on whether that exists, Sarah. That is, again, another example of like, there's not even an attempt to connect to reality here. No. Like, we all freaking know. What do you mean it's not possible to know the gender? Forget the fact that, like, you know, this is a quote unquote debate these days. Every damn birth certificate has male or female on it at birth. Every government record starts with that. Every time you're born, it says M or F on it. Like, what is that? We all, of course we know. This is like, I can't, it blows your mind. This is not like, you know, I don't know, Daily Kos or like Huffington Post or even some crazy, you know, liberal coming up with some, this is supposed to be a news organization. Like, you could even say, hey, like, obviously we all know how the male-female thing works, but, you know, some people talk about gender identity, which, as Ellen said, and we played many times on Pat and Stu back in the day, she said sex is, you know, your biological sex. Gender is like a feeling you have in your head.
Right.
And it's like, a feeling you have in your head might be interesting. That might be really interesting to know what your feelings in your head are. Not important for a government document, though. Not important really for anyone else to know. It might be interesting for you to know. We could talk about it if you'd like. But you know, there's the hoo-ha or the ding-a-ling, and you just go from there.
I mean, back in
those are the technical terms.
I'm sorry if I went too deep in the science there for the audience.
like, what was it, 1990 or 1991 with Kindergarten Cop, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's in kindergarten. The 5-year-old kid comes up to him and says, "Boys have a penis. Girls have a vagina." That seemed to be pretty definitive at that time.
Yeah.
We learned a lot from that kid.
Yeah.
So easy a 5-year-old can know it.
And Arnold even said, "Thanks for the tip." And so he was appreciative that the kid told him how to identify boys and girls.
Maybe because he didn't know. There wasn't a consensus.
Right, he didn't know. There was no consensus, but then there was after Kindergarten Cop. Apparently we've lost sight of it.
I want to know where that 5-year-old hate monger
Because
is
I
now.
want him canceled.
Right?
You know, he's
I want-
35 years old now. He's 35, the kid, and he realizes.
Well, I hope he is not living a successful life after saying that.
I don't want him working ever again. I was watching an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I like to do occasionally. I love that show. And I was watching back some previous seasons. And there's a ridiculous storyline in one of the episodes where Dennis, who's one of the main characters, he had married a woman previously and was paying her alimony, was trying to get out of the alimony. She had become very bizarre and started transitioning into a cat. She was becoming a
I'm here for
cat
that.
person, right? Okay.
Yeah, totally.
I could see this happening with Sarah. This is very possible. This is Sarah's storyline. You could totally become transitioning to a cat at some point.
I'm taking notes.
Take some notes. This is important. So his theory is I can't marry a cat. So if she's a cat, then I don't have to pay alimony anymore, right? So he makes the argument, hey, she's saying she's a cat, and everyone around her is saying, well, she's just saying she's a cat. She's not actually a cat. She's just saying she's a cat. And it's an argument, now that would be a legitimately normal, non-comedic conversation you'd have to have.
Yep.
And it's only 3 or 4 years ago this episode came out, and it's we now have to act as if that person is a cat.
Yeah.
This is insanity, and I don't understand how. I mean, even with the media, even with the left, even with all the culture behind it, I don't understand how they can win this. We all know, we all grew up. Everyone knows the truth about this, and you're just lying to everyone.
When they're telling us to follow the science all the time,
that
we're science deniers, and then they're actually denying science and biology.
That's what that is. That sentence from CNN is a legitimate denial of science.
It is.
Of course there's a consensus as to whether you're a boy or a girl. Of course there
Ridiculous.
is. We all know it. Stop denying it. That's not to say that there aren't different quirks about society and different things that happen, but we all know the basics here. And they're just acting as if there's no truth. There's no foundation. You can't believe anything because tomorrow, whatever thing you think you know today will be gone. And that is the society they've tried to build, and it makes it so they can change their mind whenever they want.
And just to add to that point, I don't recall what year the song came out, but was it not that long ago that Lady Gaga had the song that was called Born This Way?
Yeah.
That the entire intent
point.
was that we are all born this way. We can't pick
But now it's
really
true.
wasn't that long ago.
Right.
And now it's no, you're not born this way. There's no way that we can tell what you are when you're born. We have to wait and just let you decide, I guess. It's but you guys are moving the football a lot because you just said we were born this way.
That is really a great point. I mean, that was the whole thing. You weren't allowed to question that. If you were to say you know what, I don't think people are born gay. I think they are turned that way by the environment. That makes you a hate monger, right? You're the worst person on earth. Okay, well, if that's true, what are we talking about here? People
weird.
live their lives for 30, 40 years as a man, and one day they say, you know what, I'm actually a woman. And were they born that way? Which way were they born? When they were a man, and were they born that way? It's impossible. None of these arguments make any sense.
Yeah.
And this is the problem I think the right is having right now, honestly, if you take it back down to its foundation, is we keep trying to make logical arguments.
Right.
It's like talking to a kid about why they can't have pixie sticks for breakfast. It's there's no logical basis as to whether they're going to understand your arguments or not.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand.
Pat, last word on this. To the point that I just made, the ACLU, I think it was, tweeted out something recently, and they said trans children are perfect just the way they are. And it's
well, why?
Yes, that's why we don't think they should be trans.
Right.
Maybe we should look into that a little bit.
They want to have it both ways.
Yeah.
And they do. So
why would
as
you
long
change?
as they're allowed to have it both
great
ways,
point.
why would you change? They have it both ways on climate change. They have it both ways on whether or not you're a boy or girl at birth, and they have it both ways on sexual identity too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, thanks for bringing us down there, Pat.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We got to take a break. Back in a minute. It's so frustrating.
There's no way to win.
No.
That's what they're trying to set up, right?
All right, we're going to play a little game here, guys, because I have you here. and it's April Fool's Day, even though I'm told that neither of you enjoy April Fool's Day.
I think I used to, but I wouldn't mind losing it. We lost the 2021 because of the pandemic. I don't mind losing it forever. I'm okay with it.
I feel, but what if April Fool's 2020 was all a dream? It didn't happen.
I'd be in for
You'd
that.
be
Then
in for
I'd
that.
be, this is a great April Fool's joke.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. 2020 did actually happen, and we are all screwed.
April Fool's.
That is not April Fool's. It's just real life. So we have a game, Which Story is Fake? So I'm going to read you 3 different headlines, and you have to tell me which story is fake, because it's 2021.
Okay.
We don't know these days what is actually fake. All right. First one, Merriam-Webster confirms being colorblind is now racist. Okay, we've got that. Second headline, college bans mullet haircuts, labeling them unacceptable. In that case, if that is true, Ted Cruz is really screwed if he goes to that college. And the third headline, Chinese zoo embarrassed after attempting to pass off golden retriever dog as an African lion. So
That's really specific.
So
Those are
one
the
of them
3.
is not true, or one of them is true,
You're trying to guess which story is fake.
which is fake.
You got any guesses?
I think I'm going to go Merriam-Webster. I think.
Okay.
That's the
Merriam-Webster
fake one.
confirms being colorblind is now racist. Stu thinks is fake. Pat, what do you think?
What was the second story?
College bans mullet haircuts, labeling them as unacceptable.
I think that one.
Okay. Well, neither of you are correct. They're all real. They're all real because it's 2021 and everything is stupid. So Merriam-Webster, they said that being colorblind is now racist. The change was made in January, but never announced. So definition 2 reads, not influenced by differences of race, especially treating all people the same regardless of race, but now a note reads, while sense 2 can be used with positive connotations of freedom from racial prejudice, it often suggests a failure or refusal to acknowledge or address the many racial inequities that exist in society.
Un-effing believable.
We've
there you go.
literally gotten to the opposite of what MLK said.
Yes.
The exact opposite of everything he fought for.
Yeah. Race,
that's
race doesn't matter, but also
incredible.
race is the thing that
It's
matters
everything.
the most in everything in
of
life.
course, you must judge people by the color of their skin.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
We played a clip of a class the other day where the teacher was saying, showed a picture of 2 people, two women. One was white, one was black, I think. And they said, what do you notice about this picture? And the guy's like, I don't know, it's just 2 people. Like, what can you see?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just 2 individuals. Like, I don't. And he's fighting with the teacher who wanted him to say, "You need to notice the race." It's like, what?
Really?
These people are psychotic. This is just.
And the guy
freaking-
finally says, well, do you want me to say that they're different races? Well, yeah. Yeah, that's
my
what I want you to say.
Gosh.
So weird.
Amazing.
And again, they haven't outwardly turned on the person Martin Luther King
Right.
yet, but they're
They
going
will.
to be
They will.
tearing down his
Yep.
statues.
Well, they have
to. They are going 180 degrees in the opposite direction of Martin Luther King. They
Yeah.
want
Absolutely.
racism. They want it.
Yeah. All right. So the next story that I mentioned, Trinity College, which is in Western Australia. Man, Australia. Let me just say, we've got quite a bit of Australian viewers. So I don't mean to. I'm not trying to demean you, but what is going on in your country? There's some weird stuff going on in
There's
Australia.
always been weird stuff going on in Australia.
I saw a tweet of some video of some octopus in Australia that just smacked the crap out of a swimmer at the beach with his
Tentacles?
octopus. Yeah, thanks. I was like, octopus legs with his tentacles.
Octopus legs. Yeah. That's the technical term for them.
I mean, I like to.
octopus
I am a
legs.
zoologist, so
Yes.
I wanted to give the technical term there. But Trinity College in Western Australia has banned the mullet hairstyle after deeming the hairdo unacceptable. So they said it is without reservation that the college sets clear requirements that ensure health and safety, as well as setting a high standard for personal presentation. The current trend of growing hair at the back of the head and or closely cropped to the sides of the head to accentuate the mullet style are untidy, non-conventional, and not acceptable at Trinity
That might be
College.
the best thing that's ever happened. That might be the most common sense we've heard in a really long time.
It's kind of a weird thing to ban, but it's a smart thing to
It
ban.
is a smart thing.
But they also ban rat tails, top knots, mohawks, extra long fringes, and other non-conventional, which a top knot, I don't know if you guys know, but that's just like when a girl has to put her hair in a messy bun.
Well, is that also like it's not like a man bun?
Maybe.
It
Maybe
might be a man bun.
Is it just for men?
Yeah.
I don't know. The other ones seem like more men.
That seems very sexist.
Yeah, women don't have
that
mullets.
Seems very sexist of Trinity College to only target men for this, but okay, Australia, get your stuff in line here. All right, and then the last one, Chinese zoo embarrassed after attempting to pass up golden retriever dog as African lion. So
it could be a lion. I don't know.
No, that's just you have a golden retriever.
I know, and we stole it from the zoo.
Did you? So the visitors at the zoo, they followed signs in the zoo which advertised a lion, and it was just a golden retriever. But the worker, don't worry, because the worker actually said, well, this cage had housed a lion in the past. But that lion was moved to a different location.
I usually go to zoos to see what animals used to be in the cages. That's, I think, the best.
Yeah, you don't want to see what they are now.
No, that's
right?
weird.
No.
This is weird.
That's weird.
It's creepy. But you like to have the history of like what animal was in this cage.
Yeah.
You ever go to the Fort Worth Zoo has a cage that used to have a snake? It's great.
Really?
Yeah, it's just like this used to be a snake in here.
Because then you get to use your imagination and be like, I
like,
wonder what that
in there
snake
now?
did look like.
What's in there now?
Who cares what's in there now? Why would I care what's in there now, Pat, you weirdo? Look her.
Sorry, that was stupid of me.
That's so dumb.
I'm probably going to grow a mullet soon. So.
I like going on like the what was in this cage 8 months ago tour.
Yeah,
it's great.
And you pay for the ticket,
Yeah.
and then you're like, wow, I can only imagine.
You walk
how
up, there's like
cool
a
that
line
was.
in there, and they're like, there used to be a bird in there 8 months ago. And you're like, wow, can you imagine there being a bird in there? It's an incredible tour.
All right, well, happy April Fool's Day. Everything sucks. And it's just your nice reminder that it was not just 2020, also 2021. Everything is stupid, and we got to take a break. We'll be back in a minute.
Frankly, 2021's worse.
Oh, it's
I think so too. And we're only in April. All right, don't forget, if you have not yet gone to wherever you get your audio podcasts, I know those of you who have, you're like, I'm so tired of Sarah saying this every single day. But there are a lot of you, I notice, who are watching this on YouTube or Facebook or on BlazeTV who have not yet gone to, say, Apple Podcasts and gone to search for the news and why it matters and subscribe, rate, and review the show. Now, obviously, when you're rating the show, you want to give the show 5 stars because there's a glitch in the system. You can't even try to give it less than that. It doesn't accept it. It only accepts 5 stars. And then review it. And if you write something pleasant, you may see it read live on the show. We've got one today from Thaddeus J. Whoopi. I'm sure that is a real name. 5 stars, love the show. Sarah, just want to tell you that your program is excellent. I've been watching almost since day one, so I guess I'm hooked. You have a stellar lineup of guests 4 days every week. Stu and Pat are pretty good, too. I guess. Keep up the good work.
Again, we just said you had to mention us when
you
in
did
the
not
reviews. You don't have to say
specify.
positive things.
But you were the one who drove them to actually make the trek over to Apple Podcasts and make the review. So that counts for something.
Totally. And I think even if you're watching on YouTube, you'd never come over to the podcast, you're never listening to a podcast, still come over and subscribe because it makes us feel good about ourselves.
That's really honestly why we're here doing this today.
Yes.
We just want to feel good about ourselves. We don't really care about you guys.
It's been a dark couple of years and we just want happiness. And this is the only way we can get it.
So, but really, more people, the more we get the ratings and reviews, more people can find this show and listen to the news and why it matters. So you got to go do it wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, guys, for being on the show.